I'd rather talk politics.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The deeper dive. Welcome, friends. Dave Locker and Adam Shaw. Thursday slate. We got two baseball shows. Two baseball shows to go. I got one deep dive to write tomorrow. Adam has, sorry, if you hear a burp, apologize. I just had delicious Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A sandwich, pepper jack cheese, some waffle fries. Wash it down with a cherry cola. I even thought about the milkshake, Adam. Chick-fil-A. You have Chick-fil-A around you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Do you enjoy it?
I mean, I haven't had actually no, I had it. I haven't had fast food in like 2 or 3 months, but I had it on the way to vacation. I made an exception, stopped at Chick-fil-A. It was good.
Chick-fil-A, I don't consider fast food.
I also haven't really eaten meat in 2 months, so Chick-fil-A is
Josh,
just
really? Josh told me
close to me.
today that he also had Chick-fil-A, so we've got a bond there. Uh, yeah, I Wendy's, McDonald's, all that stuff, pretty bad for you. But Chick-fil-A, willing to make an
Still,
exception,
still pretty bad for you, but it doesn't make you feel as bad.
bro. They cook it in peanut oil. It's perfectly fine for you. Anyway, you wrote the article today. Thoughts on this beautiful slate that has horrible weather conditions in the one game where there's a good pitcher?
It's dog shit. There's one pitcher to play, and you probably can't play him, and every other pitcher sucks, and most of the hitters also suck.
Pretty
That's
much.
that's my analysis for this slate.
All right. Well, let's jump into it then. Boston and Houston. We only got 6 games here, which is the reason for starting a bit late. There's no way we're carrying this through an hour, even if we just talk nonsense to uh, fill in the gaps. The rain here doesn't look good. It looks like there may be a window where it doesn't rain during this game, but even if there were to be a delay around like 10 o'clock for the rest of the night, there's an 80-90% chance of rain. So I don't know how they push it back and expect to get it going. But then at the same time, you only have a couple days up to actually make up for a postponed game. What are you expecting here?
I don't know. So I think that the best way to approach it is probably to go ahead and attack it in tournaments, especially if I mean we can assume that as long as the weather stays this questionable, people are probably going to shy away from pitching. But Garrett Cole's just so clearly the best pitcher on the slate that I think it's probably a good spot to attack in tournaments at least and just hope for the best. Obviously he's expensive, but it's a phenomenal matchup. And on this slate, he would probably be 60 or 70% owned. If that gets knocked down to even 20 or 25%, you're getting a massive edge in tournaments if the game does play. As just obviously if you're going that route, be responsible with bankroll management because there's a chance that it doesn't or that it delays and he comes out because he's not going to pitch through a rain delay, I wouldn't think. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a spot where if you are going to play the slate, go ahead and take a chance on the guys from this game because there's some good hitting options here too. And if you're going to get a lower owned Astros team and a lower owned clear number one pitcher, then go for it.
You're talking about an Orioles team with the third highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitching, a sub 300 WOBA on their active roster ranks bottom 4. Their isolated slugging ranks bottom 5. Their WRC plus ranks bottom 5. Like, this is just a bad team, Adam, through and through. A terrible baseball team. Mullins, I mean, VR and Mancini, all right, but Adam Jones is DJ Stewart, Corbin Joseph, Steve Wilkerson, Jace Peterson, Austin Wins. I mean, let's say you take the risk, and here, what's funny? If you took the risk, and this game is final after 5 innings, because you got to go 5 innings, which you could see something like that happening, Garrett Cole will likely still outscore everyone else on this slate and potentially by a decent margin.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially on DraftKings where you get the complete game shutout bonus.
Do they still do that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I had Andrew Kashner once, 10 strikeouts through 4 2/3 innings. First game postponed game postponed in San Diego in like 20 some years. He was at 26 fantasy points and went to 0.
Yeah, back when he threw hard and was decent.
Yep. 10 strikeouts, 4 2/3. He needed 1 out to make it 5 innings. Make it 5 innings. And they decided that no, let's throw the tarp out That's when you know they have no idea what to do out west when it starts to rain. Um, obviously the umpiring crew has a little experience there, but it was ridiculous. I'm still look. I don't even know if I'll be completely honest. I don't even know if I'm playing this slate, but I likely will end up playing it because it's hard not to, and I won't play a lot. Probably throw just a few in the $10 with this season where it is right now, and I think I will play Garrett Cole.
Yeah, if I play, that's probably what I'll do as well. I think it's worth pointing out that, well, I guess for the rest of the show, we should make sure that we're kind of talking about Garrett Cole and non-Garrett Cole situations, because I think the pitching takes change dramatically if you're not going to Garrett Cole.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like pitchers that I have zero interest in, because like the guys that I have interest in if I'm playing Garrett Cole, I don't really have interest in if I'm not, and vice versa.
Dramatically might be an understatement. Like that's how important this is. It is that important, no doubt about it. I agree with you entirely. So yeah, I mean, we will we will just go ahead and do our best to make sure that we factor in with and without Garrett Cole, because as you mentioned, it's a huge deal and one that we have to pay close attention to. So let's keep moving forward here then, Adam. Anything else in this game, I guess, would be the first question before we move forward.
Well, I mean, Astros hitters are in a good spot. David Hess isn't particularly good. Alex Bregman is obviously phenomenal. You have Josh Reddick leading off, so that's a nice lineup boost for him. Brian McCann hitting sixth gets a lineup boost as well. The Houston bats are in a really good spot here, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Aside from that, I'm not sure there's much. I mean, I'm not planning on picking on Garrett Cole. That seems entirely unnecessary, especially given that the rain is expected to be a problem. So let's go.
Lowering his ownership makes it kind of
exactly. Yep. But yeah, Houston bats. I mean, if you're saying screw the rain, I'm just going to play it and I'm going to take my chances because the slate is so bad and there's only 6 games. Then I have zero problem looking at some Houston bats here. David Hess has looked a little bit better lately. From a run prevention standpoint, but he's still allowed 5 home runs over his last 2 games. I mean, this guy gives up power. He's allowed 21 home runs in 18 starts, Adam. You're talking about a guy whose home run per 9 rate is through the roof. And while there's probably set to be a little bit of regression, I don't think it's going to be this season. He continues to struggle. He's allowing 2.5 home runs per 9 to lefties, 1.37 to righties, with no real strikeouts, swinging strikes. All of the numbers are bad, and he doesn't get ground balls either. So, huge. Go ahead.
One thing that stands out, too, is he does have a slider that gets a reasonable amount of swinging strikes to righties. But Alex Bregman this year only has a 5.5% swinging strike rate against right-handed sliders. So he's someone where even if Hess is having one of his better games, I expect that Bregman would be able to get to him.
Does Bregman have a swinging strike rate above like 6% on any pitch?
Probably not. The guy's amazing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, let's move on then. Talk about the Mets and the Atlanta Braves. Julio Teheran and Jason Vargas, who clearly has the Washington Nationals number. My God, 2 starts against them in his last 5. He's just gone out and shut them down, and they've been very popular each time. Now he gets this Atlanta team that, if we know one thing about this Braves team, they don't strike out very often when they're facing lefties. And, just collectively, there are not a lot of strikeouts there. You look at this individual strikeout rates, as I'm sure you've looked, are very, very low against lefties. There was a point where 5 of the 8 guys in the lineup all had 15% or lower K rates against lefties. But still, Markakis 14, Ozzie Albies 14, Suzuki 16, Camargo 19. Freeman is Freeman in the lineup? No, he's not.
No.
But still, the list goes on here. A lot of low K rates. I think the highest one you have is probably like Acuna or something. There are not a lot of strikeouts in this lineup whatsoever. But I guess if Garrett Cole is out, would Vargas be one of the guys that you're referring to?
If Garrett Cole is in, Vargas is one of the guys that I like because as the SP2, because I mean you have to obviously go cheap if you're going with Cole as an SP1, and it's a tough matchup for Vargas, but he does have a 13% swinging strike rate against right-handed hitters this season. We've seen him pitch very well lately. Since the start of August, he ranks 27th out of 200 starting pitchers that have thrown at least 300 pitches in called strike plus swinging strike percentage. The stuff's there, for him to at least have a ceiling, and the price tag's still pretty reasonable. So he would be a guy he would be my favorite SP2 if I need someone to pair with Cole. But if Cole's not on the slate, money kind of becomes irrelevant, and it is a tough spot. So I would be much less interested in Vargas, and my interest level would go up in guys like Ronald Acuna, who is in a good stolen base spot and has plenty of power against Vargas. Ozzie Albies is one of my favorite plays because of the stolen base spot, but also because he's shown plenty of power from the right side. And Vargas has a 22% swinging strike rate on his changeup to righties. Ozzie Albies this season has a sub 10% swinging strike rate. I wrote it in the article. I think it was at about 7% against left-handed changeups this year. So he's been 7.1% swinging strike rate against left-handed changeups, 204 expected ISO. So he's been able to make contact with the pitch that Vargas really relies on to get swinging strikes. So I like him a lot. You have Suzuki, hitting cleanup at a pretty weak catcher position in a good spot. So if I don't have to roster Vargas as an SP2, it opens up getting to these Braves bats that I do like.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, I've been trying to see what I could do with like Cole and Gonzalez, but it's not easy. It's still pretty tough. And obviously, if I'm playing Cole, I want to get some Houston bats in too, because I'm not, why not look at Houston bats if you are playing Cole too?
Right.
Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. Vargas has definitely been better lately. I mean, the changeup is working again, and it has been for a little while now. And he's actually, done a pretty solid job of limiting power, at least to the extent that, from based on earlier in the season, the power's come down a little bit. But I still think this could be a really tough spot for him, and one where I'm not opposed to rostering these Atlanta bats either. Based on salaries, you're paying for Acuna. Like, you're definitely paying a premium for him. Albies isn't that expensive, though. He hits lefties well. Another guy that hits lefties really well this season is Camargo. I do think there's some solid stack possibilities here. I mean, Acuna's the only one that's egregiously expensive.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And if Cole's not on the slate, then it doesn't really matter because you can probably get whoever you want.
Pretty much. What about on the other side? We know Turan has had some struggles against lefties, but things have changed a little bit this year. He's still, hasn't been particularly good. There was a time there where I remember you and I were actually feeling pretty decent about him because the slider was like literally looked better than it ever has. And then he dealt with that injury. I think it was a shoulder injury against the Phillies. His fastball was sitting like 86. Came back, hasn't necessarily been the same since, but he also has a K rate that's 10% higher against righties than it is against lefties. He has a .87 whip against righties. He has allowed power to them this year, but just in terms of preventing base runners, 267 WOBA, some low numbers here. Outside of the rogue home runs, Julio Turan has actually been borderline elite against right-handed hitters. And then today, I don't know how much of a difference it makes because you have, 1, 2, 3, 4. Vargas doesn't count. You have 5 lefties in this lineup.
Yeah, and Teheran really hasn't been terrible against lefties this year in terms of WOBA or power allowed. He's allowed 1.25 home runs per 9. Where he's really gotten in trouble is the walks. Yeah, I mean, 17.9% strikeout percentage, 17.6% walk percentage. He has been a bit better at holding runners, which is something that used to plague him. I think you can obviously go to guys like Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Conforto, Bruce. They're all, pretty good hitters in pretty nice spots against Teheran, but I'm not really prioritizing any of them except for maybe Jay Bruce on DraftKings at 3,700, stands out as a really good value play. But like Jeff McNeil, I like him, but I like Ozzie Albies more at a similar price tag. Nimmo and Conforto are relatively expensive. There are other outfielders I would prefer over them if I have to choose.
Yeah, I think so too. In terms of K- BB rate to lefties, he is one of the worst in the league. He's up there with Aaron Sanchez in terms of how bad he's been. You mentioned it. The walk rate to lefties is dreadful. The only two pitchers with the worst K minus BB rate against lefties among qualified pitchers, Aaron Sanchez and Tyler Chatwood. So yeah, that doesn't help at all. And I guess it would be a lot more Julio or playing guys against Teheran would be a lot more enticing if we're targeting guys that can run. I mean, he has allowed 18 stolen bases. As we know, he's always been bad at throwing out runners. You have Suzuki, not Flowers, behind the plate today. There is stolen base upside in this matchup for sure.
Yeah, I think he's been a bit better this year than in previous years, but it's still a spot that you can run, which would bring Ahmed Rosario into play. The issue being that he is the only right-handed hitter at the top of this lineup.
Yeah, 18 stolen bases, 6 caught stealing. So a little better in terms of that, but he's still allowed the 5th most stolen bases in the entire league. So it's still a problem, is all I'm saying.
Yep.
All right, Pittsburgh and the Cubs, John Lester and Trevor Williams, 2 of our favorites here. One guy that can go deep into games and generally never strikes out anyone, but appears to have turned the page a little bit lately. I think we talked about him a couple of weeks ago and had some reasoning for this. If that was you, I think it was. I'll let you discuss it. If not, I can talk about it. And then John Lester, who's just one of these guys that when he's priced at 10,000, you want to vomit.
Yeah, I'm not real convinced with anything Williams is doing. I haven't figured out a really good reason for it. His pitch usage seems basically the same. So while I've always thought he's a pretty decent pitcher in terms of preventing runs, and he's never been someone I like to pick on, paying $9,300 for him in this spot against the Cubs isn't really something I'm interested in doing either. Maybe you have more on that, but I just can't. I can't figure out why I should really buy into his strikeout stuff being better.
Yeah. So I think it was Trevor Richards, by the way. And not,
yeah, we talked about Richards.
It was Richards' changeup.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, Miami's Trevor Richards. So no, I think you're right. Honestly, I got the names mixed up. The changeup he's throwing. I mean, before Richards started throwing that changeup more and getting strikeouts, they were the same pitcher. Like except Richards doesn't go deep into games, and Williams does a decent job of it. Yeah, I don't know if there's too much. We could. My guess would be that he is getting more called strikes, and that has a lot to do with it. Like that would be my guess. Let's see. If we were to look at when did he start getting these strikeouts? Like right around, so August 29th, right? August 29th. Pull it up right here. I have it all set up already. So Trevor Richards, since then, at least 200 pitches thrown. You think he's in? My only guess would be that he has to be towards the top in called strikes, and he's not. He's 79th among all pitchers with called.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up the leaderboard that I had earlier for Jason Vargas, but it's freezing. So.
Yep, it is. Yeah, Vargas is 39th. This is since the 29th of August, though. So basically a month.
So I have, since August 1st, I have called strike plus swinging strike. Out of 200 pitchers that have thrown 200 starting pitchers that have thrown at least 300 pitches, Williams is 126th.
126. All right, now I'll do called strikeouts. So strikeouts on called strikes, because that's really all we care about. Right. Trevor Williams is 100 out of 176 guys to throw at least 200 pitches. So yeah, that's no good. Remember,
he is getting a ton of chases on pitches out of the zone.
He is. Okay. He's getting more swings and more misses on pitches out of the zone, or just more swings?
More swings mostly. Okay. His O contact percentage is down slightly, but his O swing percentage is up a ton.
Might just have something to do with throwing less pitch. I mean, dude, if you throw less pitches in the zone and you're getting them to swing at it, you're not throwing as many hittable pitches. But that, like Marco Gonzalez earlier this year, the one thing that stood out more than anything is he was top of the league in called strikes and called strikeouts because he wasn't getting any swinging strikes. With Williams, it's hard to find anything. So Yeah, some good analysis there. Uh, what about Lester? He's good 9,800 here.
So if Cole's not in play, then I think Lester's fine because you're not really comparing him to anything above him. Paying 9,800 for Lester when you're not sacrificing a top tier pitcher isn't nearly as bad and makes the price point a little bit less concerning because you are just at that point trying to get raw points. And I think that there's enough value on the slate that you can afford to pay that. He's still not someone that I like. I think I would rather, especially assuming he's going to be popular if people aren't playing Cole, I think I would rather go elsewhere like a Marco Gonzalez or something like that. But I think it's a fine spot for him. I mean, Pittsburgh doesn't have a ton of right-handed power. Like Cervelli's a decent play. Osuna's cheap. Starling Marte is a pretty good play. But outside of those guys, there's nothing that really concerns me in this lineup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. I just paying for him doesn't really make a difference here, but just seeing that price tag makes your stomach turn.
Yeah.
But you have to play someone. Put it that way. You got to play somebody. And I guess pairing him with like a Gonzalez isn't the craziest idea. What's weather like at Wrigley today?
Looks like around 70 with wind blowing out around 10.
Yeah, I see 8, but nothing significant. That doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, roster construction-wise, basically, Garrett Cole plus Jason Vargas equals close to the same as John Lester plus Marco Gonzalez.
Right, exactly. Yep, almost the same. So there's your plan B if you need to. Let's hope we don't have to. Any hitters interest in this one for you?
Not really outside of, I do think Marte is a good play. Lester's been better at holding runners this year. Contreras is very good at throwing them out, but it's still a spot where I would expect Marte to try and run if he gets on. Cervelli's fine. I mean, it's not a great catcher position, and he's basically a league average hitter against left-handed pitching, slightly above average. I think he's fine. And then Osuna's really cheap, which is nice, especially if Garrett Cole is in play. But outside of those three, there's not really anything I'm interested in.
Yeah. Lester has definitely picked it up this year in terms of limiting stolen bases.
Yep.
But we say this a lot. If guys are still willing to run, it doesn't really matter if they get caught because you don't lose points for caught stealing anymore. When you used to, it was brutal, but that isn't the case anymore.
And as long as Marte's going to try.
Right. That's all that matters. Lester has allowed a bunch of power to lefties this year. I just don't really know where you want to go here. Colin Moran would be your only choice, and it's just entirely unnecessary. So let's talk Detroit and Minnesota. We've got the Tigers with Liriano, and then you have Gabriel Moya opening this game. Who's coming in after him?
I believe it should be Gonsalves.
Right. But do we have?
I haven't seen confirmation.
Yes. So, expected to. So, that's interesting. I mentioned yesterday the Tigers, now that Victor Martinez and Iglesias are done, have the highest collective K rate in the league against righties. Against lefties, I don't know where it is. I'm sure it's not particularly great. I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Against lefties, their active roster, which I believe still has VMart in it on Fangraphs. I actually had to go ahead and run the numbers on my own. But yeah, it's a lot lower. It's down there at like 20%. So having no VMart and Iglesias will make a difference. But just throwing that out there, if it's Moya and Gonsalves, you're going to see a lot of lefties today. But at the same time, this still is not a very good team and a lineup that is very capable of just falling flat at any given moment. They only have one lefty in the lineup, though, and that is Kristen Stewart. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Gonsalves is like a crazy play on this particular slate if you need someone to pair with Cole, but I would still rather go to Jason Vargas. I do like Nick Castellanos quite a bit here, batting third. He is expensive, but Gonsalves has allowed over a 400 expected WOBA to right-handed hitters since coming up, and Castellanos, is pretty clearly the best hitter in this lineup, especially from the right side. So I do like Castellanos if you can find the money for him. Jeimer Candelario is okay. I'm not prioritizing him, but I think that he's at least someone that would be in the player pool. Outside of that, though, it's really tough to get excited about anyone.
Yeah. These guys looking at it now, these are actually a lot of low strikeout rates, a lot of them. And you have Jacoby Jones around 25, Candelario around 27. But outside of that, Stewart hasn't seen many, but he's very low. Castellanos is low. Goodrum is low. I think Matuk is low. No, he's around 25%. So a couple guys, but really on a slate like this, I don't think Gonsalves is crazy either. He finally had a decent start last time out against this same Detroit team. And not having Vmart in the lineup does give you a little bit more strikeout upside. Not having Jose Iglesias does actually, while they're not good hitters, they have 9% and 7% K rates respectively. So you are replacing that with like a 25% K rate and another 25% K rate. So to me, that does still help quite a bit, even if the rest of the team doesn't have monster strikeout numbers. I think you could do worse than Gonsalves, Adam.
Yeah. I mean, you could do better, but you could also do worse.
I could certainly do worse. I could play Glenn Sparkman.
Is he worse?
Unless
the matchup's worse.
It's worse, dude. It's worse. I mean, at least Gonsalves has flashed some strikeout upside before.
Yeah. I mean, in the minors, he showed decent strikeout stuff. It's just that he has no idea where the hell the ball's going.
Right. I'd rather take the risk on a guy that could be blown up in the first inning, but also potentially, give you 7 strikeouts. And
I agree.
So not really a highly enticing player, but who else is? Like on this slate.
Yep.
Anything else on this side? I mean, we have Liriano on the mound for Detroit.
I like some of the Twins bats. I think that Tyler Austin's a really interesting play because Liriano does give up power to righties when he is throwing it in the zone. And we know Tyler Austin does have power here. So I like him. I think that if Garrett Cole is in play and you need salary relief, Logan Forsythe at 2,900 on DraftKings and 2,400 on FanDuel, batting third on a team with an implied total around 5 makes sense, especially in cash games. I really want to try and avoid him in tournaments. I mean, the guy just has no power upside. He has a 108 ISO against left-handed pitching since the start of last season. If Garrett Cole is not in play, I am not playing Logan Forsythe either. But, if I need the savings, I don't mind taking them at second base. And I think Willians Astudillo behind the plate as well. It's actually, I think, going to be pretty interesting to watch him against Liriano because Liriano has a decent strikeout percentage and he walks everyone. Astudillo does not strike out ever and he does not walk ever. So I don't really know how that at bat's going to go, but $3,400 for a guy batting 6th on, in a Minnesota lineup that has a good chance at scoring runs, and we know this guy's going to put the ball in play, I think is a pretty reasonable option.
Guess how many strikeouts against righties Astudillo has this year?
0.
How
many walks?
1. 2 strikeouts against lefties, no walks. 23 plate appearances. But yeah, 82 plate appearances total with 2 strikeouts. It's really incredible. The guy does not strike out. It's you don't see a contact rate like that very often. But yeah, I think on the season he has like a 1% walk rate in total, 1.2% walk rate. So yeah.
Is that including AAA or just in the majors?
Just the majors this year. In AAA, it was 3%.
Yeah, 3.3% walk percentage, 4.6% strikeout percentage in 307 plate appearances at AAA.
He has never had a 5% K rate throughout any level of baseball. It's never been above 4.8%.
And his highest walk percentage was 6.8 in 2011 in rookie ball with the Phillies.
Yo, that is wild.
He struck out 0.9% of the time in 200 plate appearances that season.
That is crazy. Crazy. Yeah, 220 plate appearances. 220 plate appearances and where is it? 2 strikeouts. That's so nuts. 15 walks.
Yeah. So long story short, he's kind of like the perfect play for cash when he's cheap and hitting towards the middle of the order, because all you really want is someone to put the ball in play 4 times and hope that you can pick up, 2 base hits or something.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's Willians Astudillo, but still, on a slate like this, you could do worse. You could. It's not like the guy projects as a
really bad hitter either. I mean, Steamer has him projected for a 326 WOBA, 103 WRC plus. Zips has him at 311 and 93. He's not anything special, but it's not like you're talking about a guy who just is going to slap, ground balls back to the pitcher every time.
Right. Yeah, agree. It doesn't hurt that the Tigers don't have a great defense either.
Or bullpen or starter.
Or bullpen or anything. Yeah. So it's not a crazy thought here. Definitely not a crazy thought. All right. Kansas City, Cleveland, Josh Tomlin, but he's only expected to go a couple innings. He pitched 31 pitches and 2 scoreless last time out. And from everything I'm seeing, he'd probably go a couple innings here, maybe 3. And then Glenn Spockman, he's made 2 starts this season. He does not get strikeouts. He's made 12 appearances out of the bullpen. And outside of having a cool name, there's really no redeeming quality about this guy.
Yeah, I think I'm expecting Tomlin to go a little bit deeper than you are. I'm not too concerned about him throwing 30 pitches or whatever, because that essentially I think would have been a bullpen day anyway. He started against the White Sox on the 20th, through 76 pitches there in 4 innings. So I'm expecting him to go at least like around 75 pitches again. Still probably not going deep into the game, and I'm still not particularly interested in playing him.
Well, here's why though. Just let me give you the reason why I have some reservations, because he's on 3 days rest.
Yeah, but it was basically like a bullpen session.
Right. So if he's on 3 days rest, you don't think they would use him as more of the same if it's on 3 days rest, like 50 pitches? I don't know.
I'm saying like the 23rd would have basically been like a throw day for him. So it's pretty likely, I think, that they were just like, hey, instead of throwing these 30 pitches in the bullpen, go throw them against Boston.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't have definitive answers, so I don't have definitive answers on it. So
yeah, I mean, that's my guess. Like, I'm not expecting him to go like 100 pitches or anything, but I think he probably goes 4 or 5 innings.
All right. So you like him here?
No, it's still Josh Tomlin.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I like some of these. I think Kansas City's a team you can go to for some reasonable upside, and I'm not sure how popular they'll be since they only have a 4.3 implied run total. But you have Salvi Perez, who, while he's a pretty mediocre hitter overall, has over a 200 ISO against righties since the start of last year. Your boy Ryan O'Hearn,
my man,
gets a matchup here against a pitcher who doesn't strike anyone out, gives up a ton of home runs. We know O'Hearn does have power, even though one of us doesn't think he's going to have a 368 ISO for the rest of his career. One of us might.
No, that's 2 of us, because I think it'll be up around 500.
Okay, fair. But yes, I mean, I think O'Hearn's a nice upside play here. Hunter Dozier is where I think you can get kind of creative. He's first base and third base eligible on DraftKings, and third base really isn't that deep. I had mentioned in the article today that I thought it was a position where roster construction wise it made sense to pay down. I'd advocated for Kyle Seager in cash games, but I think that Dozier has plenty of upside. He's a below average hitter, but the guy does have power, and that is basically Tomlin's biggest weakness is giving up home runs. And then obviously my boy Alex Gordon batting third, 3,900 on DraftKings,
right,
I think is a good play as well. One thing to note though is that Josh Tomlin is good at holding runners, so it's kind of the rare spot where I don't like Merrifield and Mondesi, and I do like other hitters on the Royals.
So let's say that Josh Tomlin threw like normal starter innings this season, right? Say, what, maybe 150? 150, right?
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
384 home runs.
Yeah. So if he threw, say, 3 times what he's thrown, he was on pace to allow, as a starter, he was on pace to allow around 60 or so home runs.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive how bad he's been. Like, obviously, it'll come back to earth, but at the same time, that's who he's been for a long time. He doesn't walk people, he doesn't strike people out, and he gives up moonshot home runs.
Yeah, he allowed 36 home runs in 174 innings in 2016. He allowed 23 last year. He's allowed 24 in 65 and 2/3 innings. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, he should probably for any normal pitcher, that would mean he shouldn't give up a home run for probably the next 100 innings or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But not him.
Not
him. I mean, he just gives up so much power. It's unbelievable. You can't make that up. If he's through normal, I'm certain he would have been over 40 home runs. Because even if regression did set in, he'd still be over 40 home runs, which is insane. I I just like guys that have power against Josh Tomlin. It's really that simple. The guy is giving up, I think you meant to lefties, 4.39 home runs per nine this season on 136 batters faced, 13 home runs and 21 extra base hits. It's the numbers are outrageously high. An ISO of almost 400, a 12% K rate, 14% against righties with 2.5 home runs per nine, and a 27% ground ball rate with 40% hard contact to lefties. Oh, and a 30% line drive rate. You do the math. Ryan O'Hearn is the GOAT, and I expect big things tonight. And you mentioned Gordon. Like, it is just a really good spot for Gordon. Mondesi, I don't even care if it's a tough stolen base matchup. But really, for me, O'Hearn and Gordon are my two favorites here. But it's not like Mondesi doesn't have any power either. He's got a bit of pop in that bat too. So
yeah, he's just expensive. Like
yeah,
he's too expensive for someone that I'm relying on his bat. If I thought he was going to be able to steal a bunch of bases too, then
yeah.
I'd be happy.
Well, the thing I like about him, he's the type of guy that's going to run no matter what.
That's
And even guys that have, even pitchers or catchers that have high caught stealing rates still have, still almost always allow more stolen bases than they catch. So I look at it that way. He's still got above a 50% chance of swiping a bag if he gets on base.
That's a fair point.
Anything else in this game? Obviously, Cleveland bats we'd like to discuss a bit here.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland bats are in a good spot if you can afford them. I think that if the Astros come off the board, they become pretty clearly the most popular team. 5.3 implied run total, facing an unproven pitcher in Sparkman who doesn't grade out as anything special, facing a Kansas City bullpen who isn't very good. You have no Encarnacion in the lineup, which obviously weakens it. We're kind of back to how we were before the Josh Donaldson trade, where you really like Lindor, Ramirez, and in this case Donaldson, and then you hate every other hitter in the lineup. So that kind of weakens it for me. But Cabrera's cheap, Diaz is cheap, Greg Allen has speed. It's not a terrible spot to full stack.
Yeah, it's not. By the way, I'll leave you with this. Ryan O'Hearn has 10 home runs against righties in less than 100 at bats. So, yes, crowning him the GOAT.
You're saying he's been running bad.
I'm saying that he, yes, been very unlucky over the last month. No, he's spectacular, man. I love this guy. And honestly, he only has a 20% K rate against righties. He has a 13% walk rate. That's it's not bad at all.
No. And Josh Tomlin will probably do neither of those things.
Right. He'll give up a home. I love Ryan O'Hearn. I love this guy, and he's not overpriced. All right, let's get to this last one and head out of here. Turn it over to the Live Before Lock show. Seattle, Texas. Marco Gonzalez, just give me a rundown on him, because in terms of just good overall pitchers, maybe not the best fantasy pitchers, but good pitchers, Marco Gonzalez is a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, he's a pretty decent pitcher. I think he's a little bit overpriced on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 6,300, which is way too cheap, I think. But this is a pretty nice spot for him. I mean, he's pitching at home in Seattle. The temperature's only in the 60s. He's got a Texas team that has plenty of strikeouts in the lineup. No Adrian, their lineup actually just came out. No Adrian Beltre, who actually has been hitting better lately. You have Ryan Rua in there, who strikes out a ton. Joey Gallo is in the lineup. I think he homers off Gonzalez. But outside of that, there's no one really in this lineup that concerns me. And I actually was just playing around with trying to come up with like a cash game build on DraftKings. I think going Cole plus Marco Gonzalez is very doable if the weather cooperates on Cole.
Literally doing it right as you were speaking. Yeah. I was trying to work that out as well.
Yeah, you can definitely do it.
It's doable.
It caps your upside in tournaments, but you can certainly do it in cash games.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Gonzalez. He's my favorite pitcher. If I can't play Garrett Cole, he's my second favorite pitcher if I can play Garrett Cole. And yeah, the only hitter from Texas that I like is Joey Gallo.
Yep, that is the best. Yeah, that's the easiest way to put it. Thank you for that breakdown. So I don't really have to say much of anything here. But yeah, Marco Gonzalez outside of Cole is the best pitching option on this slate. And then just so we hit on this real quick, Ariel Jurado, the right-hander for Texas, should throw around like 80 pitches here. Anything for Seattle bats?
Yeah, Kyle Seager's too cheap. Ariel Jurado is a guy who gets a ton of ground balls, but he does not strike guys out. He has, I believe, an 11.1% strikeout percentage against lefties. He's down around 7% against righties. gives up home runs, has given up home runs to lefties, not so much to righties. But when you talk about someone like Nelson Cruz at 4,300 on DraftKings, I'll take my chances with him being able to put the ball in play. That he can get it off the ground and elevate it. Cano is expensive, but if you can get to him, it's a good spot. Same goes for Haniger, Segura. I really like Seattle. It's just that they are priced up, and it leaves Cruz and Seager as the only two guys that I'm really prioritizing.
Yeah, pretty much. Seager, good price point.
I just realized no Elvis Andrus for Gonzalez either.
Okay, so higher strikeout upside as well. Yeah, that's nice. Andrews does not strike out.
Also, the easy shortstop cash game option at 3,400 is gone.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, probably so. With this Angels or Rangers team, they really just they have no power against righty or lefties from the right side of the plate. Like Gallo really has more power against lefties than anyone else on this team. Andrews has none. Beltre, I still don't think he's homered against the lefty this year. Maybe he has, but if he has, it's like one or two.
He has. He did it last time. You said he never had.
Oh, did he? So he hit his first one on the day that I said he has none, right? Of course. And then Chirinos has got a bit of pop, but
no. As far as Gallo, like I actually like him. It's not like I like him for the Texas bats. Like I really do like him. Marco Gonzalez, the most effective pitch he throws is that changeup that helps neutralize righties. Gallo obviously is a lefty, and Gonzalez has struck out 13.5% of lefties this year. He's allowed 1.35 homers per 9. Gallo, like you said, has a ton of power against them. I think that it's a spot that you can certainly go to as a really, really strong one-off in tournaments.
Yeah, not to mention Gonzalez does his swinging strike rate is actually up like to 10.4% over the last over his last 15 starts, which is way better than it was earlier in the season. But this is still a guy that is not going to get a lot of swinging strikes against lefties. It's 8.5%. When you're not missing bats and you're facing Joey Gallo, bad things can generally happen. And he's allowed more power. Yeah, he's allowed more power to lefties than righties too. And Gallo's got 40 home runs on the season. I mean, this guy is a very good play here for sure. And I believe he homered against Gonzalez last time because we did the podcast for the early show back with FanVice. And I remember Gonzalez gave up like 7 runs, and I'm pretty sure Gallo was one of the homers.
Yeah, he did. I had a bunch of Gallo that day.
Yeah, exactly. All right, top pitchers, go.
This Garrett Cole, fun, by the way. Yeah, Garrett Cole, but check the weather. Marco Gonzalez and Jason Vargas.
Cole, Gonzalez, and oh god. Honestly, like I'd probably throw some Gonsalves in there. If no Garrett Cole, I'll be forced into playing some John Lester. All right, catcher.
Williams Astudillo, Salvador Perez, and I had another one. Mike Zunino.
Yeah, Zunino, Perez. You said Astudillo. I don't think Griner's a terrible play, batting 6th. He's going to face a bunch of lefties. You could do worse than that. I know Vargas has been better, but he still has power issues against righties. I think Kurt Suzuki's a pretty solid option here. He's had a lot of power against lefties this year. It's just whether or not you want to spend up. Do you like Suzuki or Perez better? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's really close. I think Perez, but it's really close.
Yeah, I'm leaning Suzuki here, but I don't know if you can really go wrong. It's kind of a coin toss. First base?
Jose Osuna, Hunter Dozier, Tyler Austin.
All right. Well, that's just disrespectful that you didn't say Ryan O'Hearn.
Oh, crap. Yeah, O'Hearn.
Very disrespectful. Ryan O'Hearn, Dozier's fine, Ozuna, and throw Rizzo in there as well. He actually, made contact and got a hit yesterday, which is pretty cool. All right. Second base.
Logan Forsythe, if you need to get to Garrett Cole in cash and you need the punt. Otherwise, Ozzie Albies is my favorite. I also really like Robbie Cano.
Yeah, I really like Albies. I really like Altuve if the weather cooperates. Away from home against righties, I know it sounds silly, but this has been the case for 3 years running now. Altuve's been so much better against them, and it matters. And Robinson Cano. All right, third base. Seager, give me Dozier, Ramirez obviously is fine. I just don't see myself getting up there unless Garrett Cole is out. And then, yeah, I'll let you pick the rest because Bregman's in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have Dozier, who I meant to use here, not at first base, Seager, Josh Donaldson, and then, yeah, Bregman if the weather cooperates.
Shortstop?
Bregman there if you can. Profar, Segura.
And we will go with, Correa, Bregman, Segura, and Mondesi for me. I still think Mondesi is a good play, even though he's expensive. Outfield.
Gallo, Cruz, Acuna, Castellanos, Alex Gordon, Starling Marte.
All right, give me your top stacks. Go. We got to get out of here.
Houston, Cleveland, Atlanta, Minnesota.
I really like Kansas City too, against Tomlin. Just give me anybody against Tomlin. The guy gives up way too many home runs. So that'll do it for us. It's the Deeper Dive. We got one more tomorrow, and that'll do it. That'll be the end of baseball. Stick around. Live Before Lock coming up next. Going to lead you up to lock. You got an hour to go. Good luck tonight. Enjoy this awful slate. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive.